Howdy, people. We have a lot of them joining. We have 51 right now. So let's wait for 2 more minutes so that we have the rest of the crowd joining. So until everybody comes through, guys, please drop on the chat where you're from and what the temperature is there right now. And followed up with one more Swapnil's question. Are you guys an agency or a freelancer or a SaaS company? Please drop it on the chat. We'd love to know.
Hey, Harrison. Good to see you in Zoom as well. Thank you.
Good. Insurance agency. India sales guy. Dubai. Awesome. 2 more minutes and we kickstart.
We're in New York.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Cool to see people from all over the world.
Absolutely. Happens every session.
Nice. My dad is from Pune. A lot of Pune people in the audience.
Good to know.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, what's up? Good to see a lot of familiar faces too.
One more minute, guys. We got people coming. Awesome. So I think people will keep joining. Let them join. So welcome to one other session of Smartlead's office hours. And today we have Yash from Clay. Yash heads education at Clay, and we have Bethany, who is the co-founder and the CEO of Sendspark. Right. So the first thing before I hand over a mic to them and before they run their quick introductions, I'd like to run through the offers we have in place. As you guys know, it's Smartlead's birthday month. We have 15% offer going on all pricing plans from the first month. We offer 1,000 AI credits. We offer 1,000 AI video making credits with Sendspark, I believe, Bethany. If you'd want to change that, you can. And we also offer 3,000 additional credits on any Clay plan you might purchase, right? And I hope most of you all saw what's happening in the community. Smartlead launched our own mobile application today. So if you have not signed up, check it out, see how it's working for you guys. So I'll let you guys do your introduction. Bethany, I'll hand over the mic to you. Please let people know who you are and where you're from.
Hey guys, nice to meet you all. I'm calling in from Austin, Texas. I just moved here from New York a couple weeks ago. And really excited to be here. We built Sendspark to help you create personalized videos at scale. So it's always really fun to do things with people who are really into like how to automate things at scale. I feel like you're my kind of people.
Awesome. Yash, over to you.
Yeah, of course. Nice to meet you guys as well. I'm calling in from New York, still here. And I think we built Clay in a very similar vein to what Bethany's talking about, right? Helping people automate the boring, redundant work that you do and trying to reach out to the people you care about. So I think it's exciting to always help people focus more on the things that matter to them rather than copy pasting values into spreadsheets.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that, guys. So ideally, this is how the session is broken down. The first session is going to be with Yash, a quick overview of Clay and its functionalities and its capabilities, followed up with Sendspark from Bethany, right? So Yash, I'll start with you. Firstly, I come across a lot of people who ask me about Clay questions. I suggest Clay, I've used Clay, but I'm not well versed like you, right? So ideally, we'd love to hear from you as to if you can give a quick overview of the platform and how we can build high quality lists using Clay. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think actually before I even jump into the platform, maybe just to level set expectations with people, people always ask us, people still ask us, like even yesterday, explain Clay to me like I'm 5, because I don't think people always get it. And so I'll explain Clay to people like maybe you're, 20 or 21, not 5, which is there's like 4 parts to any sort of outreach process, right? You need to, part 1, find the people and the companies that you want to reach out to. Part 2 is you need to find more information about those people and companies. Otherwise, you're not doing your job in researching people. Part 3 is you need to write personalized copy to each of those people at those companies using the information from part 2. And then part 4 is you need to send it to a tool like Smartlead or a CRM sequencer, HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. So Clay really, really specializes in parts 1 through 3. And then we integrate with tools like Sendspark and Smartlead to help you sort of augment all across the spectrum. So I would say Smartlead really fits in at step 4. It's like you've done all the writing. Let's now send the emails. Sendspark is actually a really great example of something that can augment your outreach at step 3, which is let's personalize the way that we're reaching out to people. And then what you're asking about, which is what I will screen share and show everyone, is really step 1, which I think has downstream impacts on everything else. How do I build a really targeted and personalized lead list?
Absolutely.
But I'm going to share my screen and jump into it, show people like a little quick demo, but we can dive into it if people want. While I'm doing that, I'm curious if people want to drop in chat, what are some examples of ICPs or lead lists that you've tried to build recently? I think someone was mentioning third-party logistics. I'd be curious what else folks have been doing.
Drop it in the chat, people. Home service, AI consultants.
US lobbyists, US healthcare companies. All right, just as much as we've got a global audience, we've also got a very diverse range of ICPs in this call. Yeah. So there's no way that I'm actually going to be able to cover all of these in 2 to 3 minutes, but I think hopefully just to get an idea of it, right? Like principles of what I'm going to talk about here will apply across the spectrum. And then if you guys have further questions after this, we can talk LinkedIn, Slack, etc. I will just actually go ahead and show you one that I think makes quick, clean, and easy sense for people doing outreach in like a general SaaS environment, because I think SaaS touches a lot of folks. Whenever you're building a list in Clay, you start here in the create new table. And I'm going to emphasize that there are multiple ways to build lists. I'm going to cover the most quick and easy way to get started for anyone who doesn't have pre-existing data. But just to skim the surface here, if you have pre-existing data, if you want to grab data from a third-party source, if you want to sync to your CRM and then find lookalikes, all of those vehicles are also possible. And I think really good ways to build lists if you have that data. But if you're starting from scratch and you really have nothing beyond your guess about who your ideal customers are, you would start here with find companies and find people. And for the sake of speed, I'm just going to use find people here because we recently added the ability for you to filter by high-level company variables in the people search as well. And what I'm going to quickly just demonstrate in terms of how to build really good lead lists is I'm going to show you the wrong way to do it, which is how a lot of people do it just to build TAM. And then I'm going to show you what I think is the right way to do it, which I think will tee up Bethany and Akash for Sendspark and Smartlead types of demos as well. So the number one thing I see customers coming to us all the time to ask is, how can I size my TAM using Clay? And then how can I reach out to everyone in my TAM using Clay? And so people will do something like, hey, I want to reach out to all companies of maybe 500 plus. Let's keep it somewhat small, and it'll still be a little bit too large, I imagine. I want to reach out to everyone in software development, right? And that's probably not even an actual company TAM, because we all know that LinkedIn industry categories, you might have IT, recruiting, other services as well. But for the sake of this, let's just do that. Let's say that the the people you want to reach out to in your TAM tend to be like VPs, directors, or heads. And let's just say, like, this is true of the Clay TAM, right? You were doing revenue tools. So anyone that works in like sales, marketing, go to market is another one I've seen around the block recently. Revenue would be another one. All of those types of leadership titles are actual good fits for us. And so now let's even just be generous here and say that I'm only looking for my TAM in the US. And if I preview all the people at this, I'm going to get, I assume, a giant list, right? And this list itself is actually smaller than like what my TAM itself could actually be, because I've limited it by company size here and by only one industry. But if I were to truly go through a TAM building exercise and name all the other industries, maybe even expand my headcount a little bit, it's going to balloon to 30, 40, 50K. And so there's a couple of problems that come from this. Number one, I think it's useful for people to have their TAM so they can know who to go after. Never try and boil your whole TAM from the get-go. That's a quick and easy way to burn contacts and also burn potential relationships. It also has the downstream impact of making the rest of your personalization that much more difficult. I actually think in some ways it's fortuitous that we're doing this with Sendspark here today as well, because Sendspark is a great example, right? Of if I am just reaching out to people in all these industries with all these job titles and all of these different functions, the video itself that I can record to try and personalize it to outreach is going to have to be relatively general. And the only part of it that I can really do with AI right now is that first name and maybe a few other snippets. That's not going to be as effective as if I were to send a video only to all of the VPs of GTM on their website, where I can now re-record a video screening saying, I would love to learn more about the way that you guys approach go-to-market, any tactics that you've used in the last 3 months, how it's impacting your RevOps leaders, and the different decisions you've made on this marketing website that impact inbound forms for your team. That kind of a video is going to be really relevant for a go-to-market or a RevOps type person, not at all relevant for like a sales, marketing, or somebody else type role if you're framing it that way. And so I think the very simple but very effective tip for building better lead lists in Clay is often getting super specific on one persona at a time, and then going and building those lists step by step and combining them in your CRM and sending it even to Smartlead. So let's just say, for example, I narrow this down to GTM. It should cut this down to a few hundred to a few thousand. There we go. And then let's say I also narrow it down to even just people in New York, right? And now this is, you can see sort of the fluid list building practice. I may also include revenue here still and sales. I want to talk to that side of the org. And I'm doing New York because I live in New York. So maybe an offer that I would make is let's go out and get lunch or something else, because we could be in person and that's always exciting. And then I can import this list to a new table. I've got just 1,000 people, which for me is like the perfect size of a lead list to go after. And then we can talk about all the different ways you can enrich, add, sync to Smartlead in particular. But that's my like quick 2 cents on how to build better, more custom lead lists. And also bugs that always happen on live demos. So we'll see what happened here. But
Got
that's
it.
my.
Thank you so much for this. You showed us how the common mistakes you make and how we can build a high quality list. But one other thing that I just want to ask you is, do you see any common mistakes people make apart from this? And do you have any hacks or quick wins or strategies to get immediate results with Clay?
Yeah, so I would say common mistakes that I often see are people who maybe don't know their ICP, like especially, so I see a lot of agency and like, freelancers in the chat. One of the most difficult things you have to do as an agency or a freelancer doing go-to-market or email work for a client is actually try and understand their business, ideally better than they do. And like as someone who used to run a go-to-market agency for quite a while, I can tell you that what the founders or the employees, depending on the company size you work with, think their ICP is, might be and often is very different from what their ICP actually is.
Yes.
And so that involves some level of having talked to their customers, understanding why people have bought the product, and then being able to focus in really specifically on just job titles that work at those companies from like a list building perspective. I think the other big bucket of advice that I would give is, we were sort of talking about this pre-call, a lot of folks are always asking how to optimize Clay credits.
Right.
And I think the easiest tips I always give people are that we know paying for like email validation in particular through us is way more expensive than if you were just to get your own email validation plan. So we're thinking about ways to fix something like that, but I still always tell people, go buy your own email validation credits, connect your own API key. And then wherever else in the product that is true for you, connect your own API key to other tools that you might already have, because you're going to then just spend optimally across all your providers. And then the other big one that I would mention for folks is use formulas. The number of people that I see using AI, which means that they're calling the OpenAI API every single time for something that could just be a regular formula, is ludicrously high. So for example, I saw a user yesterday who was using OpenAI's API to always convert all of the text in each of her company names to lowercase. That is the perfect example of something that should just be a formula. And now, instead of spending 2,000 credits per table of company names, she's spending 0, because the AI formula generator is free, and then running that formula at scale is also free.
That's great to know. Thank you so much for this, Yash.
Of course.
Absolutely. And next one, over to you, Bethany. So what we would love to know is an introduction to Sendspark, obviously, and followed up by the step-by-step process and how we can set up Sendspark, setting up personalized videos at scale. And if you can also throw us some best practices, that would also be really helpful.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is how you can create one video of yourself and then use Sendspark's AI to personalize it at scale for every person on your list. So if you are generating, these targeted cohort lists of like 1,000 people, you're not going to be recording 1,000 videos. You'll be recording
One video.
And let me share. And then I'm also going to show just how this works within Smartlead. So the kind of end product that we're going to be getting to is like you have this one dynamic video in your Smartlead email sequence, but when you send it out to every person, they're going to see that video that's personalized for them, saying their name, and you're talking over their website. So each of these videos is different, and I'll play them for you too, so you can hear the AI. Let me know if you can't hear this with Zoom. Hi, Bethany. I just generated this video using. Okay. So I'll play these ones. Hi, Yash. I just generated this video using. Hi, Akash. I just generated this video. So you can see it's the same video, just different names over different.
Absolutely. That's super cool.
Cool. Okay, so the way we create this is going to be in the dynamic video section of Sendspark. And it's worth noting, like, this is, I'm sure, the main reason why you guys are watching this right now, but we do have like a normal video recorder too. So if you're already using like Loom or another screen recording tool, the idea is you could use Sendspark and it would be your entire video communication stack. So we have this, but in the dynamic video section, this is where you'll create those AI videos. And here what you can do is you make one dynamic video campaign, and at the top you can record a new video. I'm just going to borrow the demo video here, but you take that one video where instead of actually saying someone's name, you record using the placeholder word watermelon. So this video is the same one that I showed you guys in that version before. Hi, watermelon. I just generated this video using Sense. So the watermelon word will become dynamic, right? And so you add this in here. You can add some options to scroll through the website and make sure to use voice cloning if you're going to use the word watermelon and you want to replace it. And that is like the video portion. You can also customize when you send these videos out. If you want someone to like sign up for your product or book a call or take some other action after watching, you can add text around the video here. So you can add a header, message, button. You can even embed a calendar. All of this data, when you customize the page, is going to come from either Clay or Smartlead, like whatever your data source is. So you'll be able to personalize on more dimensions. You can also set a fallback. So like, let's say you don't have someone's you want to record over someone's website, but their website breaks or you don't have it for some reason, then you can set, well, in that case, say this, or, you know, if I don't know their name, say there instead of watermelon, be a little less weird. So you set this all up. And then in the last step, you can just add your contacts. And for this, I'm going to add a CSV of leads. What we'll talk about soon is actually pulling this data in from Clay so everything can be 100% automated. But just to show you how this works, you can add a CSV or you can like type in names and you'll just click generate video. And then we'll take that, that sample video that you had and personalize it for everyone on the list and put your little camera bubble over their website. While this is generating, it takes like a few minutes, so it's a pretty quick process. It's not like days, but I don't want to make you sit here. I'll go back to the one that I just made a second ago, and which was this one. So this was the one that I showed you guys, and then just share it in Smartlead. You can click share campaign, search for Smartlead, and there's two options that we give you. One is the video image, and then the other is the link. And so what you can do is you click on this image URL, you go back to your campaign in the sequence area, and I'll just delete the one that's already there, and you just paste it in. And this is adding that placeholder thumbnail. And this is just an image. So you can send this out, but you want to make sure it's clickable and people are going to be able to watch the video. So then you'd grab the video URL and you can just link this to it. So add the little link icon, and then this make sure that whenever someone clicks, they'll be taking the video made for them. And we're just mapping this to the email. So the same way you're using like first name, company name, other merge tags in your email, the dynamic video snippets work the same way.
Got it.
So this is how it all works. And then, yeah, you'll be able to preview in the final step. Analytics will also come in to Sendspark. Plus you'll see all the analytics in Smartlead of like your click-through rate and things like that to track. And if you wanted to see like percentage watched, who's engaging, you can see that here in Sendspark.
Got it. Fair enough. And one other question I had, Bethany, is have you observed any trends using videos in your emails?
Like any engagement?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, we see, oh, let me pull up a real campaign we have going. So we see really high click-through rates. This is, and so like what's interesting is like you can see this email too is the one with the video here. And so actually they both have videos. This is like an AI personalized video, and then this is a customer, like a customer testimonial video. So you can see like the rate shoots way up. And then what's interesting is like, because people can schedule the video, the demos right from there, you'll see like they just go ahead and schedule. It's cool. And sometimes they don't even reply. Like yesterday on a call, I'm like, oh, you know, what brought you?
Directly book it in.
Yeah, so it's really good. I think the key is it kind of goes back to what Yash was saying, is like you want to make these really personalized lists of like, you know, something about this cohort you're reaching out to. And then if you're able to visually show that you understand the problem or show how you help or like show something, it just feels very personalized, very relevant. And yeah, for us, we usually see 2 to 3 times the increase in engagement on emails that have video. We've seen that more or less depending on your industry, like it's not the same for everyone, but it works very well.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I think the next question is going to be in the mind of multiple people. So since you've been doing a lot of experiments, have you seen any take on deliverability because of sending videos in your email?
Yeah, so the thing with deliverability, there's like pros and cons of using video. So you really want to watch your link to text ratio and your image to text ratio. And when you're sending a video, it's both an image and a link. So like that's a red flag, like that's a ding. But then also when you're sending videos, usually your email can be a lot shorter and your engagement rate skyrockets. So that's a pro. So I'd say like those are the things to keep in mind, the balance. And if you're if you're just getting started for the first time, to be safe, like you can see in the campaign that I set up, we're using the video as the second step because we just set that up. We didn't know what the engagement would be like. We want to test it out. And so I'd recommend doing that first. Use your first email, just primary text, get in the inbox, put the video in the second step. But then if you actually see your video emails getting a lot of engagement from this cohort, that's when you can bring it up and you're like, yeah, the pros outweigh the cons. This is freaking great. So I'd say go in that order. If you're good with video, you don't have to worry about it. But if it's your first time, you don't really know what you're doing, you could try it either on LinkedIn or just putting the video in the second or third step so that you don't have to doom yourself to the spam folder.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for this, Bethany. And the next question is going to be for the both of you all. And it's how you can basically use all three together, how you can use Smartlead, Sendspark, and Clay together for a seamless workflow. So either of you can go for it.
I have something. If you have something, do you want to?
You go first. You go first.
Okay. Cool. So I love our Clay integration. It's really, really good. And Clay built it, so I'm bragging about them, not us. Like this integration is insane. Okay, so what you can do, I'm gonna just pull up. I'll pull up this one because it's simple. So in Clay, what you can do is like you have your lead list, like the same way Yash was showing it before. And then you can use a video enrichment step, just like add enrichment, search for Sendspark, and they have a step to add a video, like a contact to a campaign. So instead of what I did, where I like uploaded the CSV and click generate, you can do this all automatically. You'll just use the enrichment. You can select your workspace. You select the dynamic video campaign that you're using, and then you can map in the fields from Clay into Sendspark. So like the first name, the email, company name, like you send all of this in. And then you'll have it run automatically. And what's cool, I'm not going to save that because I already have it here. So this is what it looks like. What's cool about this is when it runs, it's going to send the contact into Sendspark and then wait until the video generates, and then it will return this success, like thumbs up, cool, good to move forward. And then you can add the enrichment to send your contact into Smartlead and enroll them in that sequence. So what's great about that is since the videos do take like a couple minutes to generate, the email is only going to send after the video generates. So you're creating the video, you're getting that success, and then automatically it's running. And this is pretty cool. I'll let Yash talk about more.
Got it. Thank you so much for that, Bethany. Yash, over to you.
Yeah. I think I'm actually just going to show something very similar to what Bethany did, but I think it was one that literally came to me as an idea this morning. So it's just that, like, I think what I want to emphasize here is that creativity really is the limit of your imagination here when it comes to using all these types of integrations. So one table that I was building is just showing people the power of how you can personalize messages using AI and research in Clay. So like when it's possible, as an example, this isn't always possible because not everyone has thought leadership available on the internet. But if you can find somebody's blogs, interviews, articles, podcasts, and reference those podcasts or interviews specifically in your outreach, it really, really leads to response rate boosts of like 16 to 20% in my experience. So here we have a web scraper just going and getting this information here. And then we have a bunch of things I'm not going to walk through on the AI copywriting that are doing it, but just to show you what this generates, right? You can get, like, for example, this email to me. Hey, Yash, just read this entire paragraph is generated with AI, right? So read your podcast interview on non-traditional career paths, which was from my previous job. Love this line in particular, not many resources for non-traditional paths. This is a gap. And then there's also this fun PS line at the bottom, right? Noticed you went to UVA. Here's a specific tradition from UVA that's interesting there. One of my best friends loved it there. So this alone is already really cool. But then I was thinking this morning about doing this webinar, like creative ways you could use Sendspark. And I realized what you can also do is, because I have the URL of the research that I'm talking about here, how cool would it be if I could show a video of me talking about having read their article and scrolling down the article or the podcast live as well. So because I already have that URL and everything else I need to create those Sendspark videos, I literally was going to do this live, but I just did it right before as Bethany was talking. So I just came in here, threw in these fields really easily. And then I haven't even looked at these videos. The script is not matched to the video in any way whatsoever, but I think it's a cool concept to check it out. So yeah, this is a great example, right? This is me talking through Kareem's
Oh,
first round podcast interview live, and mentioning and scrolling down through the whole thing as proof that I actually went ahead and did it, right? So I just
that's a
wanted
game
to like
changer.
share a really interesting example.
Absolutely. Wow. And that's really interesting. I've been thinking, oh, I was stuck for a minute thinking if we can do that. That's great. That's great to know. And Bethany, one other question I had for you is, so what was it about? I was thinking about asking you as to how you can cover the RB2B flow. So do you have anything specific for that?
Yeah, let me pull it up. Okay. Yeah, I prepped a couple in case we wanted to see them that we're using
Awesome.
for this. Okay, so what we're doing, if you don't know what RB2B is, I guess throw in the comment and we can address that. But we're using RB2B to identify who's on our website. And so when someone goes to the website that RB2B can identify, they'll throw a webhook. And then we have this clay table that's basically triggered when that webhook's received. So they're sending in all this information about the people on our website, like name, email, job title, all of that. And then we have the Sendspark automation going. So once they're received, we'll throw them into a campaign, generate that video, and then we'll add them into Smartlead. And actually, this is the one I was showing the results from here. So we've had this one going for a little bit. And what we're sending in the video is basically like, hey, thanks for checking out Sendspark. Usually people want to know how we're different from, Loom or another video recorder. Like here are a few things we've built Sendspark to stand out for that audience. And so I think this workflow just like, it's really easy to set up because it's just like totally automated and then it keeps going and we just, you're kind of capturing people you otherwise might have missed, but it's really low hanging
Absolutely.
fruit. They're not warm, but they're not cold either,
That's great. And it's a low-hanging fruit as well. So why not?
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
And one other question, Yash, probably it's time for us to talk about the new Clay agent we have in place. So I'll let you do the honors, please.
Yeah. So I think what Akash is referencing is we recently released a new Clay agent. And so for those of you who don't even know what a Clay agent is, because I'm sure there's many, it's our word for an AI agent, which is, for those of you that don't know what that is as well, right? Like there's all these niche terms in AI now. Imagine when you have a conversation with ChatGPT, you're doing just that. You're having a conversation. So the benefit of that is that you get the chance to correct ChatGPT's output over a stream of multiple messages. Now, the downside of that is that you have to correct ChatGPT's output over a stream of multiple messages. Imagine a scenario in a table like Clay. Number one, you don't want to have to set up 10 separate AI columns just to get the right result. You would rather prompt engineer to be able to do it in one shot. And also, it's expensive, right? When you're using actual APIs, because you pay for every single message you send to the API, because that's the processing cost for OpenAI. So that ramble aside, what the Clayagent is, or Clay agent, is actually what I'm using here at the beginning of this table, which is our AI-based web scraper that does two things. One, has access to the web, like I just said. And number two, breaks down your prompt into a series of subtasks in order to kind of assume the goal. So it'll automatically iterate and repeat on certain steps. So in this case, for example, if I click on one of these results, you can see like a really junior but very ambitious employee, it will give you the result of what you asked for. It will tell you why it gave you that result. And then it will give you the steps it took to get there. Finding a LinkedIn profile is relatively simple. If I go to the thought leadership one, you'll notice there's a lot more steps here, right? Because I gave it specific prompts. It first looked for a podcast, and then it looked for a conference, and then it looked for an interview, and then it looked for a blog, and then an article, right? So we've had this Clay agent for a few months now, and it's probably been one of the biggest hit features we've released in a few years. The limitation of the Clay agent is that you always have these two results. We have result and we have reasoning. what is most exciting about the new model that we released is, and so this is going to be another live demo. Let's see how this works. This is an idea I just had as well.
Mhm.
So let's do research, thoughts, and I'm going to call this neon. So now what I can do is if I choose neon as the model here and confirm this model change, and then I scroll down here, I can now specify different levels of the output that I want. So for example, if they find a podcast, I can return just the podcast URL in the podcast field and specify the URL. If there's a blog, I can specify that it returns it just in the blog and return the URL. So I actually get the results of all my research formatted in the ways that I want for this type of a prompt. Like let's put conference in here as well and make that a URL format. Zoom windows are getting in my way. Hold up. There we go. And then I'd have to change my prompt a little bit here, right? So I'm not going to walk through all of prompt engineering right now, but I'll just tell it in here. If you find a podcast, return in the podcast tag. Same for blog and same for, what did I put in here? Article? No, conference. So if I just save and rerun this exact same prompt, but now having specified the outputs so that I can actually format and clean my data in the same call as well, then this might take a second or two to run, but it can go and do that. And then also the other benefit to Neon is that it has far more capable scraping capacity than all the past agents that we've built. So for example, going through multiple steps on a search engine, I think for a few pages now, if you have like nested pages with multiple different URLs to visit, Neon does a much better job of doing that at scale. And then we're adding more and more functionality into it as much as we can, because it's sort of a combination of a model that we've built like proprietary information on.
Right.
And so I'm happy to like stop share and then I can reshare maybe for the results here because it might take a few seconds, but that's kind of my quick hits on Neon.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Yash. And even if
That's
you want to
really
share a screen, you can do that again. Yeah, that's really cool. Like, what both of y'all shared made me sit and think for 2 minutes, and I actually forgot what the questions I had for my interview with you guys. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for that. And coming to the end of the session, right? So one last question for both of y'all. You've been testing out the AI capabilities to the fullest. That's something I can see at this point. So do you see any emerging trends, any latest trends in AI for cold emailing?
Yeah, I'm happy to start this one off. So I think like latest trends I've been seeing is actually so I'll name two trends. One is like on the trend for cold email outbound. The trend is really that like whatever is the trend, you have to get ahead of that, right? So for example, I think if you like the university line that I just showed everyone, where it's like PS saw you went to X university, did you ever do this tradition? Blank and blank. I've noticed a few other people have seen that now and picked up on it, and now they're sending that in all their cold emails, right? So if you're always following like what other people are doing, you're always going to be slightly behind the curve, unless you're really good at keeping up to date on like all the influencers that release their tactics, and then you can maybe catch the like beginning of a wave each time that you do it. But my recommendation would be always try and think of something unique, interesting, and creative for your audience in particular, right?
Absolutely.
So like sort of a trend or a piece of advice on cold outbound. The other pattern, just because I've been working with a lot of larger companies recently on emailing and outreach that I've seen, is that inbound is the lowest hanging fruit for all people. So sort of what Bethany was just showing folks around our B2B, right? The one thing in outbound that you have to do in your list build is think about relevance and think about timing. And that's really hard to do in outbound because there's only so much information you get about what a person is going through, what their job priorities are, and where the company is at. Now, if someone has come to your website already, and if someone has come to your website and filled out a form for a specific piece of information that they need, you already have so much more information about relevancy, timing, and situation than you would going out cold, that I think really focusing on personalizing those messages is not only lower hanging fruit, but like much more ripe fruit that people are missing out on constantly. Because the other stat that I'll give people is if you respond to your inbound leads in the first 5 minutes, your conversion rates on those emails go up anywhere between, and I'm not exaggerating, 8x to 21x.
Absolutely.
So yeah, those would be my
And
two
that's
trends.
something I tell my team as well. So ideally, make use of inbound, because that's something that where people are bringing us to the plate. So make use of that. Once we fully utilize that, then it's probably a door for us to open for outbound. But anyways, Yash, thank you so much for that. Bethany, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would really second what Yash is saying in terms of it's like if you try any of the things that are like feel like they're gimmicks, like or like tricks, it gets old really fast. And it's all about relevance and how do you show the right information at the right time. And then what I'd say if we're and that's what to think about, right? It's not like how can I use AI? It's how can I do what I'm trying to do better, faster, more efficiently. And so some things I've seen working that like aren't that flashy, but they're kind of cool. Similar to how Yash had the PS, but said that it was like, people are already doing it, and now you can tell it's weird. I did notice another trick for using Clay where instead of it being really related to your message, it literally just puts a quote at the bottom of your email and that people kind of ignore when they see it because it's just like a standard thing you'd have, but it helps with deliverability because now all of your emails have some different text on it.
Wow.
And so it's not about like using AI to like get your customer, because maybe you could just have really relevant messaging that's not AI written, but it'll help you get in the inbox, or like AI to help you optimize the sending time to be in the inbox at the right time, I think can be more helpful than the
Right.
messaging. And,
Wow.
even with Sendspark, we say like, hey, it's not just that you said their name in a video, it's that you're showing them things that help them understand the value you provide better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Bethany. And we've come to the end of the session. So ideally, this has been so much informative. Like I said, there were moments where I was stuck forgetting my next question because there are so much functionality that you can do with the integration, and it's going to be a winner. Use Smartlead, Clay, and Spark for your flow, and it can do wonders. That's what I've realized. So anyways, thank you so much for this. So if that's it, I'll open the floor for questions. So people, turn on your videos if you have questions, raise your hands and we'll spotlight you, and you can shoot your questions to the team right here.
Just going to quickly chime in, folks. To raise your hands, there is an option right next to the chat called React. It's going to be a heart emoji. Just click on it. You'll see the option to raise your hands.
Thank you for that, Swapnil.
Someone asked about using a PDF for Sendspark. The PDF would have to be hosted online. So if it's just like locally on your computer, it wouldn't work because we need to basically be able to reach it and scrape it. But if you're able to host the PDF on a public link, then it would work. Page
Awesome.
website would definitely.
Yeah.
Good.
Wanna
And
take
we
some
have
notes? Yeah.
David right here. So I'll quickly spotlight David. David, unmute yourself and go for it.
Hi, Bethany. Just a question about that email software with the voice cloning. In your experience, because I noticed in the video, it'll sort of plug in someone's name, but you're still saying watermelon with your lips, right? So it looks a little out of sync. In your experience, does that turn people off when they see that in the video, or not so much?
Well, so actually we're about to release an update that'll make the lips like much, much better. And most people don't notice it. At least we haven't had any complaints. Like it's like just today I saw something come up now that was like from me, and he was like, oh my God, that was made with AI. I couldn't tell. So I think if you're looking for it, you'll definitely see it, but you'll notice we actually like remove the camera bubble and bring it back. So we're really trying to like obscure that. But if you're concerned, just give us like 2 more weeks and they'll be much better lip syncing.
Got it. Thank you.
Think about that
Awesome.
until he just brought it up. So yeah.
Likewise. Andy, if you can turn on your video, we can spotlight you. Go for it.
Oh, hi guys, thank you for this awesome session. So I have a question for Yash real quick. I've been using Clay a lot for European companies, and for European companies, I believe so because of the different languages, it's a little bit hard to use the Clay agent to get information from the websites. Are you doing something with that? Will there be like a solution for it, or am I just tripping and everything is all right?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that I'm not going to say I have like 100% of an answer to immediately. What I can say is that we have a lot of people in Europe who use Clay. And so I have seen people use standard AI to communicate across the most standard languages, because whatever languages OpenAI or Anthropic support, we therefore support through their integration. So you should be able to prompt anything in like French, German, trying to think of, I don't know why I'm losing other European languages immediately, like Russian, etc. But I actually have never heard someone ask about the Claygent specific piece for scraping. I would imagine this is actually the first example where maybe Neon is not the best because we've built the model for Neon. I think the other models are built on top of OpenAI or Claude. So I would test if you can write a prompt specifically in the language of what you're looking to scrape for OpenAI or Neon. And if that doesn't work, ping us over the Slack support, because that's a very interesting question and it's one that we'd want to solve for.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Yash. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you, Andy. You too. Bye-bye. Next up is Alex. Unmute yourself and go for it. Yeah, Alex, unmute yourself and you can ask your questions.
Thank you for the session. My question was just to confirm the way that it's a question for Bethany. In the email, you have your video and the website, for example, is on the back side. Is it something that is done automatically? Do I understand correct that like you've put like 100 websites and they are all scrolled down with the video?
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100% automated. You'll be able, like, if you're first setting it up, you can preview things and like double check before you turn it on. But once you turn it on, especially if you're using like a webhook to do the click table, or you have like things set up through Clay, it can be, you know, you have the lead added to the Clay table, you're automatically generating the video with the name and the scroll, and then you're automatically enrolling them in your Smartlead sequence.
Gotcha. So I just need the websites of the customers that would be scrolling. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
even if you don't have the website, then what you could do is like check a box and it will automatically pull the website from the email domain. So as long as you have business email domains, even that can be automated.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much.
To LinkedIn, right? And go through people's profiles as well if you want it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I
On
was
LinkedIn
telling
too.
them this morning, and like I think that's a really cool one as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Bryce is up next. Bryce, you can unmute yourself and go for it. You're on mute.
Hit the button. There we go. Now you can hear me. Only
Yes,
host
sir.
says I did it a little too quick. All right, good. So my question is like, this is me using OBS to basically do channel audits, that sort of thing. I do these as part of a VSL, and it was more along the lines of automating this procedure. I did come in toward the end of this because I had to basically cut a meeting short in order to come in here. But going over here and doing channel audits specifically on social media, it's not, we don't provide social media marketing. In fact, we think it should be done in-house, but we provide education on how to create hooks and retention rate and, you know, that sort of thing, right? So that's what my use case is more than anything. That's what I've been doing, just sending as a response when someone asks for information. I've been doing them in my primary emails because obviously be providing a link. I could use Sendspark. I've been basically putting them on Vimeo, but what's the, how would you modify this? If you were to do a process similar to this, where it's like going through, okay, let's take a look at your video, blah, blah, blah. It looks like it's this. I don't really want to just webhook the page and just then talk about the page, because I want to be able to reference it in the video. I think it's showing up as swapped on your end, right? Is it like it needs to be vertically swapped or something? Are you able to see it correctly?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, theoretically, it would work in Sendspark where you just record that one video and then you can add the page, and as you're talking, you can set it to scroll through the page. The question I would have is if it works on Instagram. I just haven't tested there recently. It definitely works with LinkedIn profiles, but if you need to log in to see that Instagram page, it wouldn't work. So I would just want to maybe test.
And then TikTok would probably be the same thing.
Yeah, I think it does work with TikTok. I'm like forgetting that some social platforms are different. LinkedIn, we had to build something special and we haven't built it with any other platforms. So I would just maybe like test one URL with whatever platforms you want to use before you send it out to everyone, and make sure that you're not seeing like you need to log in screen.
Got it. And then utilizing Smartlead on this, like the idea wouldn't be to send these out as the first email or the second email, would be as a response, right? I mean, I don't know if that was addressed earlier in the meeting, because you'd be sending out links I would assume they would degrade.
We talked about that. Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons of sending videos. We usually recommend I've seen people do both. Like I would say just send it. And then maybe send it in the second or third email of your sequence if you're not sure. Like, and then you can A/B test it, make sure it's driving more engagement. If it is, move it up. But to be safe, send it in the second one. I have seen people build like pretty cool automations in Clay where they're sending the emails out in Smartlead, asking if they want a video, and then using like the AI to see if they say yes, and then in that case automatically generating it and sending it out. So you could do that. It just is a little bit more complicated, and what you don't want to do is get yourself stuck in a spot where people keep replying yes and you have to go manually create the videos and send it because you're creating
Cash, would it be possible to put that in the subsequence? Like if you did, is that integration possible with Sendspark in the subsequence where it pulls the data? Because then it would just be a matter of you can just manually go through and tag somebody as, video requested.
Fair enough. Absolutely. That was the case with Pitchlin, but I'd love to hear from Bethany if you can do that for a subsequence in Smartlead. So with Pitchlin, it was a case where you can actually, once the lead replies, the first email goes out. The actual email, the second email that's going out is actually a subsequence where the videos are going out. But Bethany, how would it look like in such a scenario? So would we be able to send it in a second email, or can we is it ideal to push them to a subsequence and then start sending videos?
Yeah, so you definitely could do that. I would just say, if you know what you're doing, it'll work and you can do it. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're just like trying this out, I think that could be like make it a little bit more complicated, and it's not bad to send videos on like the first sequence anyway. So I would say if you have an idea for how it could work, do it. But if you don't worry about it.
Right. But it's probably an experiment that we could do, right? One with videos going out in the subsequence and one with the parent campaign, the second email. And at the end of the day, we can see which one is working fine.
Yeah.
Also, Bryce, what tool are you using to share your screen? Because you have your whole persona on top of it. Oh, you muted. Yeah, if you want to drop it in chat, I'd be curious.
There we go. Okay, good. I'm just using OBS, and then I'm using Logic Capture for the system. So OBS setup, it took me like 2 minutes. So it's free.
Nice.
OBS,
Perfect.
everybody, check it out.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you.
Yeah.
Team. Next up is Daniel. Right, we've got the man here. Go for it, sir.
Hey guys, I also joined a little bit late, so forgive me if this may have been covered. This is more of a question for Yash. What I've been doing before the new Clay agent, before Neon, I was using it to like summarize articles. So like the Crunchbase Daily like newsletter, for example, summarize that every time a company gets mentioned, reach out to them in like the Crunchbase Daily. But the old Clay agent it only seemed to like always summarize like the first part of an article. And then so I was like, okay, let me bring in Zenros to like scrape everything and then use it to like summarize. But then I ran into, and I'm still running into the problem of like the cell data size exceeding limit. So like that's like the biggest issue I'm facing is like it's hard to bring in obviously a big set of data into one cell. But sometimes you need that to get the best results. Is this something that the new kind of agent can solve?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. So the problem you're running into is basically that both Clay agents actually are just going to go to whatever the URL is. We don't yet have the ability for Clay agent to like scrape beyond a paywall, for example, or go behind a user login. So I think what you're probably seeing, especially knowing Crunchbase, is that you're only getting those words that are visible on the page until they paywall or block you from login. There is also not really a way to get around the cell data size limit in Clay. I would actually, if I were you, if you feel open to it, like go ahead and like tag this in Slack or log a support ticket for this as well. But this is one of the most active conversations we have internally about performance versus trade-offs and cell data size limits. I personally, this is not an optimal workaround, but it is a workaround for things that are very important to have the full text and context go through AI. I will literally send a webhook from Clay to Zapier. I will have Zapier send the text to AI and then do the AI response via the OpenAI web call in Zapier, and then I will ping it back into Clay.
There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's super helpful. Just because, yeah, with Crunchbase, it was actually just the news page on Crunchbase. It wasn't behind anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Good workaround. Thanks.
I would throw that in your support ticket as well. because maybe there's a separate workaround for what you're doing.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Next up is Abdullah. Go for it, mate.
Hello, everyone. Just the question I have, because I know, Yash, you mentioned kind of keeping up with the trends you said and kind of maybe following some influencers. So my question would be whether I am going to personalize or I'm not. It's kind of like, what's the best way to do that? Like, what's the best way to keep up with the trends? Is there anything specific I should be, kind of monitoring / following, or maybe some specific people I could, of course, follow? And of course, anyone can answer this question if you have experience kind of doing so.
Yeah, I would say Bethany's a great person to follow. I love her content on LinkedIn. I also think Eric Nowaslawski is another really good influencer on LinkedIn, probably my favorite. Jacob Twiner is another. I can send this list in like an email follow-up if it's easier for people as well. But those are the names that come top of mind. Michelle Lieben from Cold IQ is another one. There's a whole world of like influencers here, and actually many people on like the Clay experts directory, not all, but many would fit in this category for me.
Awesome. Next up is Krishna.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is a simple question. So when I run a Claygen prompt to a row, to a column, let's say I test it for 10 rows, it works fine. Okay, so when I do it for bulk rows, let's say I run it for 1,000 or 100 rows, I see there are some responses which is not matching, like it's not what we expect. So I just need some tips from you. What kind of prompts you use to get the accurate responses for all the rows? How do you do it?
It's really just a prompt engineering question, and actually there's a page we have on Clay University specifically about this. My quick tip here: most prompt engineering guides you see on Twitter or LinkedIn, absolute garbage. It's just people making things up, in my opinion. I don't even know where they get their advice from. And some of it's fine for like prompt engineering in a chat-based interface again. I really think there are very few people talking about how to prompt engineer at scale. And that's the problem that you're talking about, right? A situation in which 10 or 20 it works, but in the thousands, you're hitting all these edge cases. Part of the art, and what I'll tell you live, and then I would recommend looking at that page as well, is techniques on how to write prompts that I would recommend for prompt engineering at scale. And I'll leave the page to do that. The other tip I would give you on this call right now is that prompt engineering is very much an iterative process, the same way that building software or automations is. So when you build a prompt and it works for all of the edge cases for, let's say, 100 people, great. That doesn't mean it's like now a turn it on and it's done type thing. As you monitor it for the next 1,000 results, if you see 5 that are off, you have to then take those 5, understand why they're off, and then go back and modify the prompt to solve for those 5. And that's why your prompts are going to grow in length over time, because as they get more and more specific for all the edge cases that you're going to handle, you're going to have a more full prompt for all the things that could happen in your ICP.
Sure. Let me check this. Okay.
So
I'll put the university link in the chat.
thank you, Krishna. Timmy is up next. Go for it, sir.
Hello. First of all, guys, thank you. Amazing content. Like really, like you guys blow me away all the time. It's ludicrous. Bryce, your voice is also really amazing. Just in between. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to let Bethany know that I sent the email, and I would really love to get a nice interview in with you, because I think you really are a boss lady. So it would be awesome to get your story and your background and all of that. Just wanted to let you know.
Amazing. I'll check it out after this. Thanks.
Awesome. Video is the way, so I had to.
Awesome. Thank you, TV. And that heart is going to stay up there. Christian, please turn on your video so that we can spotlight you. Yes, sir. Go for it. You need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My question, I think my question will go to, I think, Smartlead, Akash, and Bethany as well. My question would be, I'm planning to send, though I haven't yet tried the embedding videos on my email sequence, then my question would be, to avoid spam, how can I do that? I know that the Google best practice would be you're only allowed to send just for only 20 emails or 25, it's like that. So how does it work also with embedding video? I mean, do I need to send also it's like 25 on the sequence tool or much lower? That's all.
With regards to the volume, that should be good. 25
Yeah,
something you can start off with. People start with 15, 25. There are people also doing 30. So with regards to volume, that's good. But about the video, I'll leave it to Bethany.
Yeah. So the thing to know about video is that video both hurts in some ways because you're adding a link, you're adding an image, and that's like a ding. And then it helps in other ways because it increases engagement, makes your email typically shorter, and has pros. The hard part is that when and the most important thing for deliverability is engagement. But the problem is you might not know that if it's a new campaign, like a new sequence that you're sending out, you've never sent this email or this video, you don't know how it'll perform. So what I would recommend doing is starting small, putting the video in your second step in the sequence, and then looking at the engagement rate. And if more than like 10-20% of people are clicking and watching the video, that's when you might be ready to increase from 25 to 50, 100 people and send it out at a larger scale. But just start slow, start in the second email, and then watch the engagement rate before you send it out to like 1,000 people at once. But if you do it right, it actually really helps deliverability because you're able to add so much more engagement to the campaign.
That's good. Thank you, Bethany.
Awesome, Christine. And we've come to the end of the session. Yash is already left. Bethany, thank you so much. I'm going to test it out myself. Like, it was so interesting. Me and my partner are going to make videos right now, and we're going to test out how it's going to work. But anyways, thank you so much for your time, guys. And before we go, this is our birthday month. There are offers on Plate. We have free credits with Sendspark. We have free credits you get for Clay. And we're also giving a 15% off on all pricing packages for this month in Smartlead. And our mobile application is out as well, so feel free to check it out. But until then, thank you so much for your time, guys. Thank you so much, Bethany. We'll see you on the next Office Hours session. Ciao.
Amazing. Thank you, guys.